Hello friends, first of all a happy Teachers Day to all. I'm grateful and thankful to all my beloved teachers, particularly to my PhD guide Professor K.R.S. Samsaro sir. I reached this stage because of their kind blessings. Well, in today's class we'll be discussing about one of the important topic in NEET geology about biotechnological applications in medicine. Recombinant DNA technology, means rDNA technology, which is one of the core technique in biotechnology, has expanded the field of biotechnology. Its role in human welfare is remarkable. Say, for example, mass production of safe and efficient therapeutics. At the global level, about 30 recombinant therapeutics are currently under approval. That means are currently approved for human welfare. Under the head of biotechnological applications in medicine, we will be discussing about number 1, gene therapy, number 2, genetically engineered insulin, number 3, molecular diagnosis. Number 1, gene therapy, number 2, genetically engineered insulin, number 3, molecular diagnosis. Gene therapy. Gene therapy is nothing but the insertion of a functional gene into the individual's cells and tissues so as to supplement an abnormal mutant allele. I repeat, it is nothing but an insertion of a functional gene into the individual cells and or tissues to supplement an abnormal mutant allele. What exactly I mean to say is, gene therapy, say a particular person has been diagnosed with a genetic disorder, that means a genetic defect. So as to replace, that means so as to correct or repair the defected gene, a functional gene will be introduced into its genome, that means into the target cell's genome, so that it can supplement the abnormal gene, that means abnormal mutant allele. So the whole concept of gene therapy is to repair or replace an abnormal allele, so that a functional, that means in the way of a functional protein product which may restore normal cellular activity. It's about gene therapy. Okay, gene therapy. It's nothing but an introduction of or insertion of functional gene into individuals cells or tissues to supplement an abnormal mutant allele. Okay, it's about gene therapy now. There are different techniques or ways for gene therapy, but in general, most of the gene technique, that means what we call generalized way of gene technique, is insertion of a functional gene into the non-specific location of a human genome, so that it may supplement the abnormal gene. It is a generalized method. What happens after that? When the functional gene is inserted, then it will synthesize, that means it will say in the way of gene expression, that means the transcription and translation I am saying about it. Okay, it will synthesize a functional protein product which will restore the normal cellular activity. This is very, very important. That means to correct, it's an attempt to correct or repair a genetic defect. There are two ways of gene therapies. There are two ways of gene therapies. One, somatic line gene therapy. Number 2, germline gene therapy. Somatic line gene therapy. In general, gene therapies they use somatic cells so as to correct a phenotypic disease. But the thing is, here the changes are not heritable. Again, the somatic line gene therapy are two types, ex vivo and in vivo. Ex vivo, I told you already, the whole concept of gene therapy is simple. We just insert a functional gene into the target cell's genome. Then the functional gene, the restoration of normal cell or cellular activity will take place. It's not that as simple. It is a bit complicated process in the sense, in order to introduce a human, a particular functional gene into the genome, we require certain vectors. That means a viral vectors, what we call viral transduction. We call viral transduction. Generally, retroviruses will be used. Say retroviruses, it contains RNA as a genetic material, as vectors or as carriers for this viral gene. That means this functional gene. What we call genetically engineered product. That means genetically engineered means say recombinant DNA. Here, recombinant DNA means the DNA that has been constructed from two or more than two biological sources. And this functional gene will be introduced in the target cell genome through these vectors. At the same time, the non-viral mechanisms, what we call non-viral ways like transfection are also there. Transfection in the sense the sort of non-viral ways. Non-viral ways means say in the way of calcium phosphate. It is a cheap but less reliable technique. Calcium phosphate way of introducing DNA into the cell. At the same time, gene gun means here DNA directly will be shoot into the nucleus under high pressure gas. How? The DNA will be coupled with an inert solid material, say gold particles, what we call DNA coated gold particles, and they will shoot into the nucleus under high pressure gas mode. It's called gene gun. It is also that here DNA will be introduced directly into the nucleus. At the same time, electroporation is also another technique so that we can introduce DNA. Here, for the efficient delivery of the DNA into the cells, we use lipoplexes and polyplexes. Lipo and polyplexes. I am talking about non-viral methods, okay? Say for example, in case of lipoplexes and polyplexes. In lipoplexes, the DNA will be enveloped by a lipid envelope. That means the DNA will be enclosed by lipid envelope. Whereas in case of polyplexes, is a complex of polymers. That means polymer will be used. Lipoplexes, lipids. Polyplexes, we use polymers. That means the objective is to protect the DNA from damages while delivery into the target cell. This is very important. Lipoplexes and polyplexes. So these are the different ways. Say either that means viral transduction or by transfection. Transfection I told you already. It is nothing but the introduction of foreign DNA into the eukaryotic cells. It is by means of calcium phosphate or the gene guns, and apart from this, electroporation is also another technique, so that DNA can be directly introduced into the cells, that means into the nucleus. Okay. Coming to the topic, ex vivo and in vivo. These are about different transfer methods. Okay. Then ex vivo and in vivo. Ex vivo, here I told you already, the desired gene will be introduced in the target cell. Here, depending upon the location, that means whether the cell's genetic nature takes place outside the body or inside the body. Here X means outside. X means outside. That means the target cell will be taken out of the patient, and their genetic nature will be changed. That means genetic engineering will be done outside the body, and then they will be transplanted back into their body, that means patient's body. Ex vivo. Whereas in vivo, the gene nature, that means the genetic composition of the cells will take place when they are inside the body. In vivo. Say for example in ex vivo, the target cell will be taken outside, and with the help of a retrovirus, we will introduce the desired gene into the concerned target cell, and after that we'll transplant back into the patient's body. In vivo, simply through microinjection directly, that means the genetic nature will change when the cells are inside the body. That's it. So far the gene therapies are restricted to somatic line gene therapy, because in germline gene therapy, the word implied, we will introduce genes in sperms or egg. But because of different ethical and technical issues, this germline gene therapy has not been promoted. But the thing is, whatever the changes happening here are heritable. But whatever the change, that means gene therapy in case of, that means somatic line gene therapy is not heritable. Is not heritable. Not heritable. Whereas germline gene therapy, they are heritable. This is very, very important. So it's about a basic idea of what gene therapy, different ways of gene therapies, and a particular types, what we call. Okay, then for the first time in 1990, a 4-year-old girl, a 4-year genetically defected person, actually, genetically defected person has been subjected to gene therapy for the first time. In 1990, a 4-year genetically defected person has been subjected to gene therapy. The concerned person, that means the concerned child, is suffering with SCID. The concerned child is suffering with a disorder known as SCID, means severe combined immunodeficiency. Severe combined immunodeficiency. SCID. How? That means this disorder is resultant because of a deficiency of an enzyme called ADA, adenosine deaminase. Adenosine deaminase. ADA. Adenosine deaminase is essential for immune functions. Because of a mutation in the ADA gene, it leads to SCID, severe combined immunodeficiency. Some of the children will be treated with bone marrow transplantation, and some of the children will be treated with enzyme replacement therapies. At the beginning, first the lymphocytes will be removed, that means will be isolated out of the patient, and they will be cultured. Then with the help of a retroviral vector, we will introduce adenosine deaminase cDNA. Adenosine deaminase cDNA with the help of retroviral vector will be introduced into the lymphocytes, then they again cultured, then again transplant back into the patient. This is the initial way of gene therapies, but it's not a permanent cure. So far all these gene therapies are not so effective. This is very important. The permanent cure will take place when a gene from marrow cells will introduce into the cells at the embryonic stage. That means because this will be a permanent cure. This is very, very, very important. Okay. Why? Because the lymphocytes. Why this is not a permanent? The next question. The lymphocytes, they are not immortal cells. We have to periodically inject, that means infuse these lymphocytes into the patient's body, and it's a bit complicated procedure. Okay, it's about the gene therapies and different mechanisms. At presently, the scientists are focusing on single gene defects like cystic fibrosis, hemophilia, muscular dystrophy, and others. So it's about different ways, that means top issues related to gene therapies. In examination point of view, they might ask you about differentiation between ex vivo and in vivo gene therapies, and what is the gene gun, that means as issues related to gene gun, and the basic nature of gene therapy. That's how about gene therapy. Then the second important topic under this head is genetically engineered insulin. Genetically engineered insulin. Say for instance, this is genetically engineered insulin. Genetically engineered insulin. This is peptide, A peptide. This is B peptide. and this is C peptide. This is proinsulin, A peptide. Then there's 2 sulf. I will tell you what exactly it is. Disulfide bonds. Okay. Mature insulin. Just an illustration, okay? Insulin is a protein hormone that is produced by the beta cells of islets of Langerhans, and this is the hormone that is required for the acceleration of glucose from the blood into the cells and promotes a process like glycogenesis, lipogenesis, etc. But the thing is, initially that means the hormone is not mature. It's called proinsulin. Just like proenzyme, it's a prohormone, proinsulin, and it consists of 2 short polypeptide chains, peptide A and peptide B. In A peptide, it consists of 21 amino acids. B peptide consists of 30 amino acids. So totally 51 amino acids. And insulin, which is a protein hormone, consists of 51 amino acids, wherein A peptide consists of 21 amino acids, B peptide consists of 30 amino acids. At that means immature level, there is an extra stretch called C peptide is present. But during the maturation process, it's just a simplistic view, okay? During the maturation process, the C peptide will be removed. Ultimately, that means the 2 peptides A and B, which are connected by disulfide bonds, will occur. That means the mature insulin, what we call functional insulin, is a construction of 2 polypeptide chains. That means 2 short polypeptide chains known as peptide A and peptide B. Peptide A and B are constructed, that means they are assembled by disulfide bonds. Insulin. No, it's about the basic function and aspects of insulin. A diabetic patients, generally they will take, that is administration of insulin is regularly taken by the diabetic patients. Just imagine, there is no periodic insulin. What happened? We have to take insulin from the non-human sources. Initially, before the recombinant DNA technology, people used to extract the insulin from the slaughtered pancreas of cattle and other animals. But this non-human insulin leads to allergic responses. That means it may incite immune responses. At the same time, it is very expensive and less accessible. So keeping in mind these difficulties, I told you already, the recombinant DNA technology has expanded the scope of biotechnology, particularly for the human health welfare. What happened? There is a bacterium called E. coli, what we call genetically engineered bacterium. With the help of this bacterium, that means we have introduced a insulin gene into the E. coli, what we call genetically engineered E. coli, and on the mass scale we have produced enormous amount of what we call as much amount of insulin as we can, or as the demand requires. That's how what we call recombinant insulin, what we call humulin. This is very important. Humulin is a brand name with regard to the group of biosynthetic insulin products, simply called a recombinant insulin. Humulin. How this created? I told you already. This concept is, just the insulin gene will be introduced into the bacterial gene, and we can get as much amount as we can. But the thing is, the assemblage of these 2 peptides A and B is a challenging task in recombinant DNA technology. In 1983, Eli Lilly, an American company, synthesized DNA fragments corresponds to A and B chains. A and B chains. But the thing is, I told you already, assemblage of these two chains is very important. When these DNA fragments introduced into the host, what we call bacterium, then the two chains were synthesized separately, and these two chains, that means chain A and B, they extracted and they assembled with the help of disulfide bonds, ultimately creating mature insulin. That's how recombinant DNA technology, I told you already, is revolutionized the concept of human health welfare. Say, recombinant insulin plays an important role, especially for the welfare of diabetic patients. Okay, it's about genetically engineered insulin. The third topic under biotechnological applications in medicine is molecular diagnosis. Molecular diagnosis. Molecular diagnosis. For the effective treatment of a disease or an infection, we require early detection. Early detection, so that we can, that means for the early detection, we need to understand the pathophysiology. The pathophysiology of the disease, so that we can counter the parasite by appropriate measures. But earlier, after the symptoms appear, we used to fight against, that means start treatment against a particular pathogen. Say, the conventional methods like serum analysis, blood analysis, they're all outdated technique, because there are conventional methods. After the patient start appearing, that means after symptoms start appearing in patient, with the help of these methods, we try to find out and fight against the pathogen. But by this time, that means by the time we start, fight against this a particular pathogen or a disease, the bacterial load or viral load reached its top level. That means there is a full load of bacteria or the virus. Here the pathogenic nature is become so strong or dangerous that for us it is really difficult to fight. So the crux point against these issues is early detection. Early detection is very important. I told you already, the biotechnology has played an important role under this. So different techniques like recombinant DNA technology, polymerase chain reaction, ELISA, that means enzyme linked immunosorbent assay, plays an important role in the early detection. Say PCR, with the help of PCR, we can detect early when the bacterial or viral load are at lower level, so that we can start countermeasures, and we can also understand the pathophysiology of the nature. That means it enables us to understand these things. For example, say in case of AIDS patients, the suspected HIV, we can, that means in suspected AIDS patients, we can understand, we can diagnose whether the person is infected with HIV or not with the help of PCR. Even with the corona also, RT-PCR will be used to diagnose. And different genetic disorders like hemophilia can be understood, can be diagnosed with PCR. This polymerase chain reaction is a mother technique in diagnosis, that means early diagnosis of many genetic disorders like hemophilia and other most dangerous infections like COVID. It plays an important role in the early detection. Okay, PCR. Other technique under molecular diagnosis is ELISA. ELISA means an enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. Here, ELISA is based on antigen antibody reactions. Say, for example, a particular antigen released by a pathogen, say glycoproteins, protein, etc., or antibodies released by the patient against that antigen. So, depending on the same, that means the ELISA will detect the pathogens. It's also one of the important technique in the early detection. At the same, with respect to other other related things, say for example a single stranded DNA or RNA will be tagged with a radioactive molecule. Then they allow to hybridize, that means based on complementarity in the clones. Whereas a particular clone has a mutant allele. That means after it is subject to auto-reading, if I am saying, it is a general protocol. A particular clone consists of a mutant allele, but it doesn't appear in the photographic films. That is after the complementarity, it leads to autoradiography. That means in the way we will the help of photographic films we try to understand. Okay, in photographic films, in a particular clone where there is a mutant allele, there will be no complementarity, because here for the radioactive, that means the radio tagged molecule, it doesn't have complementarity. With that we can identify the mutant alleles. So these are the different ways of biotechnological ways that can leads to early diagnosis. Okay, so this is about so in today's class we discussed about gene therapy, then genetically engineered insulin, and different ways of molecular diagnosis which leads to early detection. And this is one of the important topic. In the last class we have discussed about biotechnological applications in agriculture, the same in medicine as well. Particularly I told you already in the orientation lectures, biotechnology chapter is very school, that means what we call a catchy chapter, at the same time a bit tough. So we need to revise and re-revise to understand different things, okay, so that we can get maximum score. And I have referred NCERT Biology Class 12 and Andhra Pradesh Telugu Academy Intermediate textbooks for this topic. Thanks for watching.